What's going on, everybody? Hopefully, you all are out there doing well. It's a little story I saw that I wanted to go ahead and read. This is an article I saw on AOL. Wanted to go ahead and read through this. I just kind of skimmed it real quick, but Bill Maher rips media's panic porn. Calm down and treat us like adults. Now let's read this thing. And there have been times in the past where Bill Maher's spoken out against the left, but usually when that happens, he always takes a dig at you know who. So let's see what happens here. Even though it looks like he's going to be saying one thing, it's Bill Maher. So let's really see what he's going to say here. On this week's Real Time, Bill Maher took issue with how people, especially in the media, have been reacting to the pandemic, expressing the worry that panic porn will cede any optimism about this crisis to President Trump. And there it is. Maher complained about how news organizations have covered the pandemic, saying media should calm down and treat us like adults. And I can't really understand how he's tying this into Trump, but let's read a little bit more. Maybe he'll clarify some things for us. Now that we're starting to see some hope in all this, don't hope shame me, Maher began. You know the problem with nonstop gloom and doom is it gives Trump the chance to play the optimist. And optimists tend to win American elections. Okay, I guess I get what he's saying now, what his line of thinking is in his mind. I'm not saying I agree with it, because the reality is that, and I've said this many times in many videos, and I'll say it many more times, and I don't doubt that most of you know this, but the media, the thing they're best at is using negativity and divisiveness to pit you against me. That's just what it is. But what he seems to fail to understand is, well, let's read a little bit more. As an example, Maher cited Franklin Roosevelt's famous quote, "The only thing we have to fear is fear itself." Then he said he worries that as he is, I can see Trump writing that into a second term, and then there will be no hope left for you to shame. All right, so there's the boom right there. Because it's really been Trump that's been the negative one, apparently. What he fails to realize, being the loony leftist that he is that Trump didn't create a situation where the media has painted the narrative this way. The media didn't have to cover this the way they did. So it's really kind of a sticky situation that the media is in. They need to cover this negatively so that their Democrat buddies can get elected in 2020. And obviously we know that whatever side of the political spectrum you're on, that the media's handling of individuals in the left and individuals on the right is far different. So the media, by and large, is obviously biased towards individuals on the left. So in this situation, if the media were to cover this in any other way, other than making it into a negative and attempting to create that fear, saying that everything Trump is doing is wrong, it's a bigger deal than he's making it out to be. If they really were more forthright and honest about the situation and even talk about some of the good things that Trump has done, and of course there's bad things, some things he could have done better on, no doubt, I'll acknowledge that. But if they were to in any way acknowledge some of the positives that he's done and things that have come out of this, such as the early travel ban on individuals coming from China, that individuals would see this thing in perhaps more of a positive light, or maybe that it's not as huge of a deal as the media is making it out, which would get Trump more support. Again, like I said, it's kind of like the catch-22, right? What does the media do? Do they continue to paint the negative picture to help their Democratic buddies get elected in 2020? Or are they honest with the American people and tell us that, hey, this thing probably isn't as big a deal as we've made it out to be? Or I should say, rather, it could have been, but all of the work that we've done with isolation and quarantining, social distancing, all of that stuff's really helped to a point where it looks like perhaps, hopefully, we've turned a corner. It'll be interesting to see if there comes a point in time where the media starts to paint this thing in more of a positive light. And if they do, will they attempt to credit Trump in any way? My guess is probably not. My feeling is that when things start to turn around, they'll probably give a lot of the credit to individual governors, Democratic governors, that have done things in their states, such as Cuomo in New York or Gavin Newsom here in California. Let's go ahead and finish this up real quick, though. Those are my thoughts. I don't know how you feel about it. Maybe you see it a little bit differently, but that's just kind of how I see it going. when we get to that light at the end of the tunnel or when we get out of the tunnel itself. Maher turned his attention specifically to the media. If this insanity happens again, news sources have to rein it in. Everybody knows it's no walk in the park because you literally can't walk in the park. But at some point, the daily drumbeat of depression and terror veers into panic porn, Maher continued. Enough with the life will never be the same headlines, and that much I agree with. He noted a recent Washington Post headline that read, "It feels like a war zone," which included a photograph of a supermarket stalker unloading boxes in a store's egg and deli meat section. "This is not a war zone," he said. "This is a man with a box of eggs, and I've never seen a war zone with this much bacon." Oh, I love it. A recent story on Inside Edition also drew Maher's criticism. 2 weeks ago, Inside Edition said 76,000 in the world had died. So some are making comparisons to the apocalypse. The apocalypse? Really? Because most of us are sitting at home smoking delivery weed and binge watching a show about a zookeeper, Maher said. Unless you're a frontline health worker, for whom the phrase, above and beyond the call of duty, doesn't even begin to cover it. This is not the apocalypse. I definitely agree about Joe Exotic, and I've been meaning to get a video done on that, but other stuff's come up, so I gotta try to get that later in the week. And I know, you expect Inside Edition to be over the top, but the New York Times, Maher went on, they used the same word last week. Brace for an apocalyptic surge. New York avoids worst so far. That headline was later changed to virus deaths mount, but New York avoids predicted surge at hospitals so far. And this was an article about how much better the city was doing than expected. Still bad, but you still don't have to put hot sauce on a jalapeno. Maher cited another New York Times headline. "It's terrifying. Millions more out of work," adding, "What the F is this? It's terrifying." Doing in a headline. Granted, it's a quote, but who are they quoting? Trump? Fauci? Stephen King? No, they're quoting an event planner in North Hollywood. No offense to the event planners of the world. It's amazing what you people can do with pine cones and silver spray paint. Maher complained he'd rather get a straight headline and make his own decision about how to feel. There was never headlines like this before, he said. There was no "It's terrifying, planes hit World Trade Center." There was no "It's sad, Titanic sinks after hitting iceberg," or "First atomic bomb dropped. Ouch." Maher wasn't entirely accurate here. For instance, on September 12th, 2001, they're really going to go there with this. They're really taking him literally on this. The Seattle Post-Intelligencer's front page headline was, "None of us will ever forget." And the Denver Post ran with, "Darkest Hour." Meanwhile, on August 5th, 1945, the New York Herald Tribune's front page read, "Atomic bomb revolutionizes war," while the New York Daily headline about the event included a racial slur. So they really went there. They really took the time. Like I said, they really took him literally. No shit. Obviously, he's kidding about that. Come on, he's a comedian. He's trying to be funny here, and they really went the extra step with that. It just shows you how ridiculous the media is. But back to Maher. The media also seems obsessed with finding young people who've died of it. He continued, "The Washington Post says there's 759 under 50 years old. Horrible, of course. Then I looked up how many under 50 died of the flu last year. Almost 3,000. Boom. Now that's another atomic bomb that Maher dropped on the media right there. So all this misery from distancing did some good, Maher said, returning to the point. Can I be happy about that? Death is terrible, of course. No matter how it comes, I'm against it. And I don't care who knows it. But giving a proper perspective isn't a cover-up of the truth. It is the truth. Sudden dramatic deaths, like plane crashes, shark attacks, tornadoes, mass shootings, terrorism, as awful as they are, kill far less than the seasonal flu. Even hospital-acquired infections may very well kill more than the CV, 99,000 of them last year. 50,000 die of nephritis every year. And I don't even know what that is. 22 million Americans have filed for unemployment, and many will lose their health insurance. Studies show lacking health insurance kills people, but it doesn't lead to pictures like this. He showed a photo of a mass grave, and it doesn't happen all at once. We need the news to calm down and treat us like adults, Maher concluded. Trump calls you fake news. Don't make him be right. too late for that, Bill. I don't know where you've been living the past 4 years, but it's too late. The media is too far gone. All of that said, I agree with some of his points here. You know, he's a comedian, he's an entertainer, so he's doing it in his own ludicrous way. He does make some interesting points, and it's getting to that point where individuals are starting to get less and less understanding of the stay-at-home situation. Now, when you have a situation like that, obviously it's going to pit those who still want to quarantine versus those who want their liberties or freedoms. I saw like a statistical poll result before I started talking about this, and it said 60% of Americans still favor the stay-at-home order, which was interesting. But obviously, what you're going to see is as each week goes by, if they take the same poll next Monday, the following Monday, the Monday after that, you're going to see those numbers start to drop. Makes sense. It's 60% right now who favor staying home longer, but as each week goes by, you're going to see that number drop and drop and drop as people get kind of tired of it. Now, those were my thoughts about it. I definitely agree that you have to treat individuals like adults at some point. At some point, the quarantine becomes a bit too much with the amount of time passing. Obviously, you're looking for more positive results from cities and states in terms of when you can start to ease the restrictions and everything like that. I do agree with him in a way that it has been news porn, or however he wants to describe it, but that's the media. They don't know any other way, and I would think that even though he's one of these loony leftist types, he's still a smart individual. I would never take that away from him. He has to know, for as delusional as he can be about Trump, he has to know, he has to see that this is how the media has been and always will be. This is just how they work. So it shouldn't be a surprise to him how they're electing to do the coverage of this. But like I said, it's a catch-22 for the media. If you start to cover it positively, then people would see Trump in a positive light, and he rolls to re-election. The longer they can paint that negative picture, the more they hope that they can damage him so their Democratic buddies can get elected in 2020. So what do you guys and gals think? You see it kind of the same way I do? You see it a little differently? Let me know. Leave some comments. All right, thanks for watching, everybody. Take care.